Hello, everybody. Welcome to Paul David's Bogus Hangout. I'm going to have our guests introduce themselves and start with Webmaster T. Terry, please tell us who you are and what you're up to.
Terry Van Horn. I'm retired in Toronto. I still do a little bit of work, not much, though, as little as possible.
Doc?
Doc Sheldon of Intrinsic Value SEO and Deep SEO Conference, which is coming up in 3 weeks.
And Thomas.
Thomas Sickle, founder of Blueprint Marketing.
And I'm Bill Slawski of SEO by the Sea, and I'm the Director of SEO Research for Go Fish Digital. So we were talking about SEO experts. Are there really SEO experts?
I think there are people with a lot more knowledge than others, but I think they shouldn't call themselves that.
So why do some people insist on ranking number one for SEO expert?
People search for it.
Not many.
It's like ranking number one for LSI keywords. You got to push Neil aside and push Brian aside, and you get the rest of the crap. And
yeah,
most of the stuff is nonsense.
No, you're right. I think that they just assume that, like, it's sort of, remember Top SEO, that forum where you could pay to be involved?
Yeah.
They were trying to use ego bait. They were trying to rank for other people's names so that people who own those names would contact them and say, list me in your directory.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think people just want to get attention, and that's the reason they maybe have had some success, or maybe they've had none, and they believe that they are an expert.
Yeah, it's like the BBC calling me and asking me why I'm not in the BBC. I asked them, "You still charge $650 a person to be in the BBC?" And they say, "Yeah." I say, "That's why I'm not in the BBC."
There you go. And if you discounted by $600, I still wouldn't be in.
Exactly. Top SEOs, if anyone out there is looking for an SEO, I would not go to a paid listing. Sure, they're probably not the best, but there are some great examples. Like Bill, your site, SEO by the Sea, has a lot of people that you link to for content, that they've written great content and are very good SEOs. You don't call them SEO experts or anything, but you're there on your, I don't know, almost recommendation by association.
Just because top SEOs call somebody good SEO doesn't necessarily mean that top SEOs knows what they're talking about or the SEOs are any good.
It means they pay top SEOs.
It doesn't necessarily even mean they pay top SEOs.
Well,
you can't get in
the
there
website top. Is that what we're talking?
As far as I know.
Top SEOs list people.
Yeah.
We lost you, Bill.
Listed.
Yeah.
So top SEOs includes people who aren't even paying to be listed.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, just famous names.
I didn't know that.
It's like Bruce Clay. Bruce Clay, he's an SEO we've heard of. Let's include him.
Yeah.
Bruce didn't pay to be listed.
Yeah, that makes sense that they would do that. And then they would, by association, then people are. But yeah, I don't think the website top SEOs is worth anything. The hosting it's being paid for to power it.
Probably been over 10 years since I looked at those.
It's like the Consumer Affairs website that has reviews that are for consumers. If you don't like your review, you contact them. They'll tell you, pay us money, we'll take it down.
Jeez.
Oh, you mean like Yelp?
Yeah. The guy said, I came up with that idea myself. It's an SEO idea I had. I said, I'm an SEO. I don't think it's a good idea.
That's an SEO idea? Yeah.
It's extortion.
To make money.
It's a criminal idea you had.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
you're lying and you're making stuff up and it's not true.
Right. It's bad enough that there's people out there with reviews that lie and make up stuff that's not true. Have to do it with people that are actually deleting legitimate reviews. That's bad. That's way worse, actually.
I don't know many people know that it's not true. I think they just don't know.
The guy who founded the site admitted that to me. He said, "Yeah, we made these up."
Oh wow, jeez.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's
And he said, "Yeah, we want to hire you guys to do SEO for us." I said, "I'm not available right now."
I don't meet your qualifications.
How about later? No, I won't be available then either.
I'll still have ethics then.
Yeah, that's like I've always known top SEOs is a bad place to go, and never used them, but I've heard clients in the past say, they've been looking on top SEO, and I'm like, oh, it's a paid listing setup, and that normally gets them to understand that it's not the same.
It's either a paid listing or a listing that gave somebody free because they thought that person should be in there.
Right. They've got enough visual.
So you'll see like Neil Patel, or you'll see Bruce Clay listed.
Yeah.
And they may not have paid to be in there, but they're there anyway because people have heard of them.
Right. And they want to make it look legit, so they put them in there.
Well, I mean, what can be better than having Neil Patel, right?
Yeah.
I've been seeing listings from people who are espousing the Neil Patel Digital Agency and their membership in it. And it's like I'm tempted to respond to them and say, "Really? You enjoy working for that?" Yeah. You call that a valuable organization?
My daddy taught me when I was in high school that you're judged by the company you keep, and I learned that lesson the hard way. So, kind of picky who I hang out here with,
Exactly. Yeah, it is important. I mean, it's really important, especially if you're somebody that has years of experience. You should know where to spend your time. I can forgive the guys that have like 1 year of experience. They don't know anything or know anyone in the industry, but the people that have at least 2 years or 3 years have no excuses. People with decades.
Well, the other thing too, Thomas, is that there's some folks out there who are touted to be SEOs that have been around for 15, maybe 20 years in some fashion or another, and they build an audience. And for whether it's earned or not, if you have some level of fame and celebrity, there's some responsibility that goes with that. When you start talking about how wonderful LSI keywords are, it's just really rubs me the wrong way when I see somebody who has a podium spouting crap, and people are lapping it up because he's popular, he's well known, he shows up in Google, so he must be right.
How could the famous person be wrong?
Writes an article about LSI keywords saying that you go to the Watson Natural Language Processing API and you download those and you sprinkle them in your content, like your keyword stuffing, like it's on Thanksgiving. It's like, no, it's not how you do SEO. And I don't care if the guy failed out of some chemistry school; he's a failure. He may rank pages highly, but do you want to rank number one for LSI keywords? I don't.
Could redirect it somewhere. This is not right.
This is a steaming pile of poo. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. LSI keywords and Watson natural language has some benefits, but definitely don't use it like you're talking about, like dumping it into keyword stuffing. It's insane.
Well, as a group, we tend to, too many of us tend to grab onto buzzwords.
Yep.
And it makes me sound intelligent if I'm using the buzzword of the day, right? So today it's LDA, tomorrow it's LSI, everything is AI. No, I'm sorry, there is no AI yet. That's a dream in the future. we may get there, but right now, what there is NLP.
There are everyday SEOs who you say something negative about LSI keywords and they say, but it's semantic. And I say, but you're a dumbass.
It's like, I thought we were talking about watermelons. What? It's just as relevant. Like, yeah. I mean,
there are ways that Google is using to find semantically related terms that add meaning to your page. They've indexed all those terms already. They built phrase-based posting lists. They've got a patent for it that describes how it's done. They know all the phrases that appear on pages that are frequently co-occurring terms for certain things you might optimize pages for. They know what those terms are. They look at knowledge bases to find the meanings behind certain terms that might have multiple meanings, and they call those domain terms. And if your page includes the word horse on it, and it includes stirrups and saddles and thoroughbreds and stuff like that, they know you mean the animal horse, like equestrians ride. And
if it has basketball, they know
they can index it. If it's got like cutting wood and so on, they know you mean a sawhorse.
Yeah,
it's a different type of horse completely.
Probably about the game basketball. Horse is a yeah, exactly.
Right. If you've got Simone Biles wins bronze medal, it was in the vault.
See, but co-occurring words isn't as fancy as LSI keyword.
Right. Most of the people using LSI keywords have no idea what the heck LSI even means.
Right.
And if you put it in front of them, they couldn't pronounce it.
and they'll point to Applied Semantics at Google from 2003 to say that it has something.
Here's what I found on the web.
It's got absolutely nothing to do with Applied Semantics.
Database stuff. I remember, right? It's old-fashioned database used in databases, correct?
Before the web was invented, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Decades before the web. Yeah.
What's comical is the guys who first put LSI with SEO. They said that they were wrong over a decade ago. That's what makes it even funnier.
Yeah.
There's a good one on Ahrefs that says what are the first ranking for what are LSI keywords. Has a reply from John Mew saying there's no such thing as LSI keywords. Anyone who's telling you otherwise is mistaken. Sorry. It's pretty good. I was surprised.
I don't understand that. Why an SEO wants to use SEO terms to talk to a search engineer or someone.
Because he doesn't want to sound as stupid as he actually is.
Oh, okay. But John isn't going to give you a right answer if you don't ask it properly, and that's the problem. They don't use
and somebody probably asked John about the use of LSI keywords.
Right.
And John said, "Are you stupid or what?" Except
John's nicer.
Search engine journals are not going to publish that, so he says something like, "We don't use those."
Yeah, no, it definitely, like, there's a great article by Ahrefs about if you type in what are LSI's keywords into Google, they actually give an actual factual answer about it starts out with most people saying LSI keywords have the power to boost Google rankings. Is this true or is this a myth? It says it's a myth, basically, right at the top.
Yeah. So, there's nothing anywhere written about LSI that talks about the use of keywords. You don't create LSI keywords. There's no such thing.
Well, greatness has come into the room.
Yeah, no, it's something that a lot of people, I mean, if they Googled latent semantic indexing, they would be able to read the scholarly articles and understand what it is, but I don't think they're doing that.
No, they're going to the clickbait articles and writing great post. I should investigate Google signals, ranking signals more, and I'd have a thriving SEO practice like yours.
Not like mine. Mine is based on facts.
Well, his is based on facts too. He wrote an article the other day I read. He was talking about having no SEO clients at all whatsoever. I said, that's pretty obvious.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of misinformation, like Doc was saying, if you have a podium, if you have that wide audience already, no matter how you got it, you do have a responsibility not to spread BS, because when you do it, people will automatically assume it's right because the famous person said it, and then it creates a domino effect of bad people actually get hurt by it. Like businesses will actually lose money, and
businesses fail because of stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Hey, Steve.
One of the guys I know, Justin Brooke, he's been replanning all of his stuff, and he's decided this time he's doing it all in public because he's considered one of the top level gurus in marketing. And his first couple of posts have been, that didn't work. And then he shows the numbers, and the best part about it is he's explaining why he thinks it didn't work and what he's doing to compensate for this. And he's just laying it all out there. He's not pretending that his stuff works 100% of the time, all the time, or it works for everyone.
That's good. I mean, that type of honesty is what we need. Like Tom Anthony and Will Critchlow have done some pretty good jobs with search. Gosh, it's an easier name now. But they're basically their multivariant and A/B testing tool that they search pilot that they created, and they show a lot of failures on there too, which is great to actually see people being honest and forthright about these things.
Yeah, and Will has come out with a couple of interesting ideas over the years. I've seen it because he goes out to disprove his theory.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
the right way to do it.
Exactly. That's what your best scientists do too. You come up with a hypothesis. Now let me prove it wrong. You'll learn a lot more that way.
Yeah.
We have a question about, in the same sense, does all the advertising I've seen for AI copyright follow the same logic? Have any of you sorry, I can barely read my screen, use it for some blog content, and then it says previous comment was in regards to Watson keywords. And okay, so I've used Watson through content harmony, but not in the way that it's described here. It's just to basically take what's out of the top 5 ranking for that term and figure out what keywords might be used and how many times they're used. So some
of the APIs for understanding content are there to help you understand content. They're not there to insert keywords into that content.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not about creating keywords. It's just looking at basically things that are posted on other pages that rank well for the same topic.
Right. You've written about this entity and these attributes, these features of the entity. Here are some other attributes of that entity, some other features.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not telling you to insert those into your content. It's telling you more about the content and what potentially could be added, something that may be additional to it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely it's I think it's a great. They have a nice thing for making content, basically content briefs to give to writers. And they've done a great job with it. But if it was like LSI or something like that, or it was just trying to give data from just that thing, it would be a disaster.
Right. It doesn't say, here's the magic incantation. Say it 3 times loudly while eating chicken livers.
Bloody Mary in the mirror, and you'll see her. It's yeah, like it's absolutely amazing how much misinformation is out there, and
Yeah.
I would love to see a study, if it was possible to be done, on how much money is lost because of it.
Mm-hmm. So I did have a client who was selling an apartment complex. He was selling apartments in Arlington, Virginia, and he had a big apartment complex. He wanted to fill up he wanted to sell as many apartments from as he could, and had a 4-page long website. He didn't include very much information about the website. There were some nice pictures of a dog park around the website, and that's about it. He did mention on the website that if you got off at the basement exit to the website, that would lead you to the Metro line, DC Metro line. Didn't explain what the DC Metro line was. Didn't explain all the hidden underground tunnels all around that part of Arlington that covered the area. There's a 5-story tall shopping center called Pentagon City within a block or two of that apartment. It wasn't mentioned in this page either. What we did was we wrote a bunch of blog posts about what else was found in that area, what else you could see. Because if you've ever driven a car around Washington, D.C., it's a nightmare. It takes forever, and you usually get stuck in traffic. If you take the D.C. Metro line, you get there quickly. And you can go to lots of interesting places on the D.C. Metro line in Northern Virginia and Southern Maryland. You can go to D.C. Metro, D.C. games, with the football team or the Nationals, and in minutes. It's just a matter of getting on the subway. You can go to 39 different Smithsonian museums, and they don't charge for admission to a Smithsonian. They charge for parking at a couple of places that have parking. But if you get kids and you live in the apartment complex, you can bring them to a different museum every week, just starting that at your basement elevator.
That makes sense.
So it was very convenient knowing about all the entities that were related to that apartment and what else was around, all the people, places, and things that you could see and do.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of advantages to living there. That apartment website, we sold out of apartments within a year because we provide enough information that people actually wanted to live there.
That's sort of like my friend Brian Jackson, who writes for Kinsta. The reason that Webhost has done so well is that instead of just talking about what they offer, they will do like how to create 301 redirects on Nginx, Apache, and their system, of course, and then also Microsoft, so that they cover everything. So anyone typing in how to create a 301 redirect or any questions about that, they'll cut. It will be a full, almost encyclopedic set of answers that this is based on the truth for the right answers for all of them. And I think it's really smart that they went that way instead of just where the other hosts talk just about their own stuff, and it's like, because then people will learn about that host and they'll have it in their head next time they think about hosting.
Red Hat was building their SEO content up by making a knowledge base of how to solve problems in Red Hat. They took common questions people had about installing Red Hat software and running it, and they provided answers. And people were looking those up, finding the Red Hat answers, and actually buying the software and running it and using it. And if they hadn't provided that, it would have never gotten popularity it got.
Yeah, it makes sense. It really does. Like, I mean, I watched Kinsta just from its content go up 1,300% in 1 year, something like that. because they talked about everything. And it's really the way to go, no matter if you're selling hosting or you're selling software or whatever it is. You kind of cover all the bases if you want to get truly complete content, in my opinion, or have the correct co-occurrences as well. Because if you think about co-occurrences with a 301 redirect, it should be all the servers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also worked on a Baltimore.org website back in 2005. And we were trying to do plain, ordinary, run-of-the-mill SEO on the site. So we had pages ranking for things like Baltimore bars and Baltimore sports. And they decided they wanted to have a page about Black history in Baltimore. So we were trying to rank a page for Baltimore Black history. We tried. We were ranked about 115th, 120th, and weren't getting much better because there were lots of good pages about history in Baltimore.
Yeah.
And so I turned to my copywriter and asked her, write me a walking tour of the city of Baltimore, places you can visit where you can learn about the history. There's a 9-foot-tall statue of Billie Holiday. Tell me how to get there and how to see it, what to look for. There's 6 townhomes in the Inner Harbor that Frederick Douglass owned in the 60s. He had left Baltimore as a slave and a teenager. He came back a rich man and owned a maritime company. He owned ships, and he was able to afford 6 townhomes on the harbor.
Wow.
So let me see how to get to the harbor and how to see those townhomes. Let me see all these historic churches and schools. You have people like Sojourner Truth, who is well known for the churches in the area. Write something where I can find out more about her. We published this. Within 3 months, it became the 6th most visited page on the site.
I'm actually doing something very similar to that for my hometown of Newcastle, New Hampshire, and there's a ton of historic. It was the capital of New Hampshire during the Revolution. There's a fort on it. There's a Coast Guard base. There's a ton of history and some stuff attached to the Salem witch trials. So basically, I'm having them rewrite the entire site to include all this stuff if they want to get people to read it. And it's really fascinating when you can talk about what happened where.
Baltimore.org was the visitors center and convention center for the city of Baltimore. It was where they were trying to get people.
Let's go grab a glass of water. And why don't you go wash
Stop.
your hands?
Sorry.
It's okay. It's where you're trying to get people to visit the city and see what else is there. Go to events, stuff like that. So having people reading pages that were about Baltimore and actually driving into the city to take tours was part of its mission.
Yeah, no, it's just like I remember a long time ago, you were talking about local SEO. You gave someone advice on, they were like, hey, if you're building a house up near the beach, you should talk about the type of ground that it's on, if it's on sand or if it's on, some houses need to be moved up and moved back because of erosion. I know that's common in Nantucket and in Newcastle now. If you're talking about something inland or in the mountains, it's all different forms of construction. I'm sure the different types of foundations and different reasons to put the house wherever it is on the property that the owners choose, or whatever whatever the builder can do. They know, and it also shows that they know the difference between that, which I was really impressed by.
Yeah, there are parts in California here with houses that don't have basements. And there's some cities that do have basements.
Is it city-based? It's based on the city codes?
There's a city near the ocean that has houses with basements. And I don't know what makes a difference from the other cities.
Yeah, I read a whole thing on how lifting homes and basically how different basements and how a slab would be laid, and there's about 4. It's pretty interesting, all the different ways of supporting the home and what they do to when all these things fail or they start to get old. But yeah,
I've seen a lot of homes with valves out in front of the house with turn-off switches.
like
So
a
you don't
water
go
valve.
into the basement to turn water off. You go to the valve in
Oh
front
yeah,
of the house.
that's so strange. Yeah, that makes sense though. You got to put it somewhere. Yeah.
And same with the gas for the hot water heater.
Yep. Yeah, that makes complete sense. But then someone could theoretically go into your backyard and turn off your water.
So I've seen some of
It's
these.
not common.
I've seen some of these on-off switches covered in cages,
That makes sense.
locked
yeah.
up.
Yeah. You don't want like the teenage neighbor just pranking you and turning off your own.
No, go past. You don't see too many enclosed shopping malls. They're usually strip malls, but you'll see in front of these shopping centers these big on-off vaults, on-off switches for the water in one spot. And it's like you can turn all the water to a shopping mall off in one space.
Maybe in an emergency. They probably have another valve down the line. I'd hope for each store.
Or the switch just turns off the pump.
It's something, yeah. I didn't expect to see it like that, though. I mean, I grew up on the East Coast. Everybody had their own on-off switch in their basement.
Yeah, basements are big here. Like it's really rare. Like in Florida, basements are sort of rare because the water table's so high. But I've seen them and they leak still. But the ones in New England, at least, they rarely leak. Unless I'm house sitting and I happen to house sit for a neighbor for one day. I checked on their house. There's some beeping noise. There's 3 feet of seawater in their basement. All this stuff. I'm like, why did I have to get picked on this day for this one thing? And the disaster. But like, if you're a company like Safety Clean and you clean that stuff up, you can then you should talk about those types of disasters that occurred and where they occurred and how you've helped out.
Yeah, it's a type of thing that would be appropriate content for a web page. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, I think that some people get so focused on what they're selling or what, like if it's content for e-commerce, they just get soaked into that. So they don't think about anything outside of their product range. And then, they think that writing anything that's not directly about what they sell it's off topic or something. It's not. If it's about aloe, you should write about aloe plants as well as whatever you manufacture with aloe inside it as well.
Like one of our writers the other day said something that really made sense. Is too many people are focusing on what they want to tell a prospect about what they offer, rather than trying to tell the prospect what they want to know about.
Yeah.
Quit being interested in what's important to you. Figure out what's important to them.
Well, I had a client who wanted SEO done for their product search engine. They were selling 7 million different products on the website. And one of the owners of the site was a former search engineer at Google. And they had chosen 7 products to show off what was available on their site. And one of those products was horse liniment. And it's like, and they have the gall to ask me how good their SEO is on the website. And I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd call it about a 2.
There you go.
They said, why would you call it a 2? I said, you have 7 million products to choose from. You show off horse liniment on your front page. Why?
That's quality horse liniment. No, I'm just kidding.
Because our guy was from Google and they just look at number of clicks it might get.
How many clicks could that get? Like, how many people are searching for horse liniment?
You'd be surprised.
Really?
Yeah,
There's a lot of horse enthusiasts, man.
There's an awful lot of people that use horse liniment on themselves.
Yeah.
I have many times.
So
My grandmother did for sure.
there's about 6,000 queries per
but
month.
not
for it.
necessarily the number of, it's not necessarily equivalent to the number of people looking for a search engine to buy something like a toaster,
Or like
No,
a
this is
TV.
true.
If I type in OLED TV,
radio, a boombox.
It comes back to what's the easiest thing to rank for.
well, they had 7 million products. They're going to rank either way. If it doesn't have to be on their homepage for Horse Linen, I hope. I mean, it's a 6,000 queries per month on it. And if you're selling TVs as well too, because I worked on a few sites with millions of products as well, and that's 60,000 people searching for OLED TVs. And I'd rather put those on the front, and just if you sell them, which this company did, I believe. They sold a little bit of everything.
You'd want to sell a product that you made a couple $100s for instead of one that you made 69 cents for.
Yeah. It's about margins and how much money you can make off it. Also, I had a client that wanted a certain product promoted heavily because he got to go to a conference for free that was worth thousands of dollars. So he said, I got to sell X amount of this to get that. So I want you to push it.
So as a horse,
So it
horse
doesn't
linen-
always matter sales. Sometimes it's a client wants to get rid of a certain product.
Oh yeah,
Was
if they
it-
have an overflow.
it was a horse liniment conference.
Well, I wasn't saying directly to you, but I agree. You want to have your highest margin best sellers on the home page.
Well, I mean,
Are you want to be paid for what products you show on those pages? It's like in grocery
If some
stores.
guy gives me $1 million
people-
to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, people pay for placement of products.
Yep.
Yeah.
And television shows as well.
there are other business reasons for doing things like one of our jewelry clients had a brand that they carried that they had an exclusive territory on, and a year and a half into selling it, the jewelry store literally 2 miles down the road started selling it. Calls his sales rep. Sales rep says, yeah, we decided that we want to go ahead and just sell it to anybody. And he's
Wow.
like, oh, that's fine. And that day we started running ads selling that jewelry at 50% off.
Mm-hmm.
And we completely destroyed the local market because anybody who wanted this very specific style of jewelry was going to buy it from us. And we were going to take the loss to stick that other store with a couple $100,000 worth of material he couldn't sell. So
Yeah.
there are reasons for selling things the way we do, and not all of them are marketing reasons.
That's true.
Sometimes you're just trying to free up warehouse space so you can accept a new shipment. There's a lot of
Maybe
things that go into play.
horse limit had an expiration date on it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
I can give you a lot of reasons to do weird stuff, but usually it's because somebody's lazy.
But if he's being called in as a to audit the site or look at it as an SEO, they should share that information.
Yeah.
If it's
Oh,
some
for
other,
sure.
yeah. Like most clients are like, this is why we're doing this that you recommend against, and they're like, oh, okay, this is why I understand you have a deal with so and so to make this much money. So
I didn't think their question to me about the SEO of the site was appropriate,
yeah,
but I think my answer was.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and they didn't turn around and tell you that there was a good reason for selling horse liniment, I guess, right?
Well, they shouldn't have put him on the spot in the first place. I would never. Someone asked me about another SEO. I say, yeah, I know him, but I'm not going to comment on it unless I didn't like the guy.
Weren't they asking about their own stuff? How they had their own site?
I would
perform?
say, yeah, you could have done better, but I'm not going to say anything bad about the other company. What's the point?
Yeah.
I gave them a reason why I gave them that grade.
Right.
I told them they're selling a product that I don't expect too much desire for, too much anticipation for. They could do much better with the website. They're not doing themselves any favor by promoting brands that a lot of people don't really care for.
Yeah. Asking for a grade is inappropriate, though, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
grading is subject to so many things, but like it was in-house SEO, right? They asked you to grade them.
They asked me to grade them.
that's
I
different.
was a solo SEO.
They were
They were-
asking about an in-house job.
It was in-house asking about their own work, right?
They were potentially going to hire me to do SEO for their website. And they start out by saying, we've done some SEO. Can you tell us what you think of the SEO we've done? Could you grade it on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, then that's just asking for it.
Yeah.
That was just asking for a straightforward answer.
If you ask me a question like that, I got to tell you what I'm really
Yeah,
thinking.
if you don't want to know, then don't ask.
Don't ask.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I have actually told people before, I don't think you really want to hear this answer.
I
Right.
would see the front of your site and say, there are other sites I can buy stuff for. I don't need to go to this one.
And they sold almost everything, right? They sold everything. From
They sold
electronics to-
7 million products.
Yeah.
And they're choosing some really terrible products to show off on the front page of the site.
Yeah, generally you want something that's got a deep discount. It helps.
Or something that people say, yeah, I need to own that.
Something trending right then for sales. Yeah. It's actually going to be a high margin item. And
Something
They
much
can-
sexier than horse liniment.
Yeah.
you could have TVs covered with horse liniment. That would be, a combination. A disaster. But yeah, it's rough when people like put you on the spot like that and you've got to give them bad news. It really is tough to be like, well, not so good. But
one of your firm's owners is bragging about how much he knows about SEO and how smart he is, and he used to work for Google, and they're showing off anything but that.
You know, Doc Terry and I could probably start a service where we could deliver that kind of news.
and it would be fun.
Yeah.
just come with a flyover with a plane with a little banner behind.
They wanted that information
Start out.
for free.
Sure.
They wanted to be able to rub it in my face that they didn't hire me because I told them their SEO sucked.
Wow.
At that point,
Yeah,
I was
people
perfectly,
most of the time
I
don't
was
want
perfectly
your-
happy not to be their SEO.
Sure.
Makes sense. Yeah. You have to turn down a lot of jobs in this industry just because some people aren't paying the right amount or it's just not the right fit. I had a guy call up and scream at me, and the first time I ever spoke to him, he actually yelled at me and said I was a jerk or something. I was like, do you think I said something rude? And he's like, no. I was like, okay, I gotta go. And he basically was like, well, wait, when are we gonna start? I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, are you kidding? Like, you just called me all these words. And he's like, oh yeah, no, that's my process. I'm very upfront. And if I get angry, I let people know it. And I go, well, you don't call people names that you've known for 5 minutes because it's kind of weird. And I don't want to work with someone that's doing that. And he's
I don't envision a future with us working together for very long.
Yeah, exactly. Like I thought he had Tourette's or something, to be honest. And I asked him that. I said, "Did you just like yell this out?" And like with he seemed to take offense to that. And I was like, I was being serious because I was like, "You've known me for less than 5 minutes. How? Like, what did I tell me? If he told me I did something or he thought I heard I called him something, or which I would never call a client like some rude word."
Yeah.
Then of course, I would understand him replying with something rude. It was amazing. I was just like, okay, gotta go. And he called back a few times. He wasn't to apologize either. It was to say, when are we starting? Very bizarre. But, you meet different people. And that's one thing about this business is you get to work with all sorts of different businesses. And I think that's one of the best parts. And you get to see how all those companies work.
and you potentially are thrust into a lot of different situations that you come up with unique ideas for.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to each be optimizing directly on somebody else's website.
Yeah. There are a million ways.
It's like I had a client who was into building food products and was traveling to Washington, D.C. to be part of a conference. And I suggested that she build a guide to restaurants in the area and things that people can do and see at those things. So she had relatives who lived in the area. They could tell her about the places. And so she built a guide to different places and sent it out to people, and they visited them. And it was a way to get them to know her better.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Also, like, we get to see the tech that people are working with, and like some people have in-house mail servers still. I know a company I was working with, their email went down for 2 weeks because of an ice storm in Maine, and because their server was sitting inside of their building, which was not attended to for almost 2 weeks. Yeah, and I was like, you should just, for right now, you should sign up for Google Apps, Microsoft 365, something. Get off of this thing because it's causing you problems, which they did, thank goodness. But like, the IT guy at the business actually tried to argue with me that the reason for keeping it was like mail speed. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It still has to go. When you send it, it goes to travel across the web. You're talking about a microsecond or something? Like, who cares? And that was his whole pitch, is that it's going to be slow. I'm like, you're receiving email from people with these clients, and you don't even know, like, it works. Trust me. I just had to show them on my phone. I sent an email to myself. I'm like, look, that went through Google. It just hit instantly. Like, amazing, huh? And just like it would with any email system, it has to go through whatever SMTP server, all that stuff. So and also saving the money. If you can find out ways that they're doing things inefficiently, and some technology might help them, that's always helpful.
I've used hosting companies for mail servers, and sometimes those were really slow because mail was cached. And sometimes it would take 10, 15 minutes where it was sent from to get sent out in batches. And then it would take
big SMTPs.
Minutes. Yeah.
They want to keep the IP address. Yeah.
So mail, somebody could send you an email that you wouldn't get for an hour.
Yep. Yeah, but that's like transactional email mostly. When you're sending out huge volumes of mail at once, you want to keep it from being with one big burst. I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have you guys had any issues with some of the Google apps or with Microsoft 365 or anything like that?
Oh, don't get me started.
Well, like in terms of like the email actually taking longer than like an in-house server.
I have just recently divorced myself from G Suite because I had somebody set me up with all of my emails except for my Hotmail, but all of my domain-based emails, they moved to my G Suite as aliases.
Oh.
And I decided it just wasn't where I'd rather just go to the domain, go into the cPanel, set up an email account for that goddamn account. And so going through Google, I lost 2 days and 6 hours trying to find where I would go into my admin and I would see the domain that I want to remove, and I'd click on remove domain, and it would say you can't remove it because there's still emails attached to this.
Oh man!
So I try to get somebody on the phone. I finally ended up speaking to 3 different people to figure out where in the hell to find the email that was attached to that domain within Google's camp. Mm-hmm. And even the supervisor, after escalating it to the supervisor, even he didn't know.
Wow!
And he finally stumbled across it. Took me 2.5 days just to get off it. And by God, I will never go back on it again. I tell you. In fact, just this morning, I shut down my G Suite account.
I can understand that if you're using aliases and you want to send from them as if they're unique mailboxes.
I use 360 for that.
365 is great, yeah.
I use it. It manages all my email and some clients. For $2, I can set them up with their own box on my system.
That's a good price. Yeah, I used Exchange for 10 years, and then I switched
not Exchange.
No,
That's not Exchange. That's 365.
365 is the Office component as well as the Exchange email system. Yeah,
365 has Outlook.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what I like about it is I also manage my IPs and stuff. The domain DNS server, I manage all that through that as well.
with 365. Oh wow.
Yeah.
But isn't that somewhat limited in some cases for DNS? Like they said that you can't. There's like one thing that you can't do with it. I'll think of it later. But if it's working, that's great because Microsoft has
It's
very
really
fast
well.
DNS. Yeah.
In fact, sometimes when I hook up to GoDaddy, it goes and signs up the domain talks to the Windows to 365 servers and sets all that
Oh
up.
yeah. If you buy from certain, yep, exactly. If you buy from certain, what's a great place to buy domains? I think is Cloudflare, just because their prices they don't charge more than the ICANN and the registry fee. That they don't make a profit off of it, so it's like $8 for a domain, which is pretty good.
Well, I'll
You
tell you
remember,
what.
you remember when domains were free?
Yeah, that was way back when.
Going back a couple months there, yeah. If we're going to plug registrars, I'm going to put in a good word for Namecheap. Because
Namecheap's
yesterday I moved a client over to our server, and he sent me his credentials on Namecheap. I went in there, and I already had pulled up what is my DNS.net and run a check on it, and it was showing it the old host. I went to Namecheap, changed the DNS, went back. In under 3 minutes, it was fully propagated around the world.
Yeah.
3 minutes.
Now, you make that 3 days with GoDaddy.
It used to be something like
I
72
didn't
hours.
find that.
You can if you need to actually get to it quicker, you can change your reclusive DNS to 8.8.8.8 or 1.1.1 for Google or Cloudflare, and then go to flush cache, and actually it'll clear it for the entire system that's using Google or Cloudflare, and that's a great kind of workaround until it merges.
Well, yeah, I've spoofed them before, but I just wanted to get this thing done and clean so I can show the client, okay, see, you're set.
Yeah. No, that's wonderful. The one thing I value from Cloudflare is you get the Anycast DNS for free, but at the same time, they force you into using their DNS, and I was a big fan of Dyn. I'd speak at conferences about DNS, people would walk out, they don't like it, but basically Dyn was bought up by Oracle, and now you can buy Dyn DNS for almost the same price as AWS's Route 53. It's just probably costs $3 a month compared to 200, and it's the same infrastructure, which is really important to me, at least. Also, another good DNS system is DNS Made Easy, but there's a lot of good stuff out there. And another registrar is Pernect, and they have good prices, but in Google domains, of course, and AWS domains. Sorry.
So what's the deal with Google displaying headers instead of titles?
So I have a question on that. If they're going to display, when people write their actual company name, like example co, right? Wouldn't that be displayed as well if they're going to do that?
As Matt Cutts once pointed out when he was talking about Starbucks, he said, okay, you go to starbucks.com and the title for Starbucks.com, the homepage, is home. And
Oh,
he said, Starbucks, I thought you sold coffee,
yeah,
Not homes.
not homes.
they're competing with Zillow now. No, that is, yeah. A lot of the really big companies, you see some of the worst mistakes with because they're household names and they just don't care. But Google will send them a ton of traffic no matter what, it seems like. But at the same time, yeah, you could definitely improve it.
Yeah, you don't need to call your homepage home.
No, never.
But I bet 3/4 of the websites in the planet do.
Probably. Like, I mean, if you think about pages too, I mean, if you want to title them, it shouldn't just, it could be about that business or about, but I've seen a lot of just abouts without anything. It's like, about what?
Yeah, I think Google, it's like when they use a link anchor text off a third-party site, they think your title's no good, so they're going to replace it with something they think's more appropriate for the query. Now, I think that the people who are saying that they're replacing titles with H1, it's not that. It's that Google is just taking what they give them, and there's an SEO plugin and WordPress. You can tell it, put a pipe and this after the title that you put in when you're editing the page. So Google is just saying, oh, any of these with delimiters, if they aren't any good for the page, we'll just remove the delimiter. That way people aren't going to complain because we use something that they actually thought was the title.
Yeah.
Hey, Yahoo did a patent on websites and said 17% of the websites we surveyed didn't have titles.
There you go.
It's probably, yeah.
But I read further down in that article, and someone mentioned that they found one where the title was replaced by anchor text on the page.
Whoa.
I've done site crawls, site operators on sites where Google has changed all the titles to all the H1s to tell you what the page actually does, what it's about.
Where you ever play with it and then type in words after site colon, and then you can see if it changes the titles or not to match the words.
Right. If you just do the TLD like .edu, and you do a site.edu Viagra, you can see 200, 300,000 sites, edu sites that are about Viagra.
They're way up there in the rank. No, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Also, another really popular thing that's happening is people are building backlinks off of query strings. So they're querying all these keywords that are getting stuck in the search, cached into the search system on the site. And it's actually it works for them to build backlinks off of. It's pretty terrible. So like I had a client, I was looking through their site and I saw all this Viagra, Cialis, all the stuff that looks like a hack, like a pharma hack.
Yeah.
And I show them, and it turns out that Ahrefs was pulling backlinks. So when the backlinks were auto querying, they basically had machines auto querying all these words, and then they would show up just perfectly with all these keywords on the actual site with emojis and all sorts of stuff. So we basically just put a WAF in there and made it so that certain queries would be blocked with certain keywords, couldn't be queried, like Viagra, Cialis, and that type of stuff. But outside of that, it was like, in talking to Ahrefs about it, they're like, we've seen a lot of malicious link building off this, doing this, and it was pretty interesting to see it happening. But yeah, overall, pharma hacks are a nightmare, and that's where it's important to get good hosting. And also, if you don't have good hosting, go to SecureEye, or if you can fix it yourself, get it off that blacklist. Is that nothing hurts worse than having to go to a site, and I think most people will not trust the big red thing saying this has been compromised or hacked. People aren't going to continue to go to it.
It's no fun being on blacklists either.
No.
Definitely.
Cool.
A few SEO clients who I helped get off blacklists.
If like for I think $86, you can have your site removed from all the blacklists by SecureEye, which is a good price in my opinion. But
It's easy. You just contact the
yeah,
list.
once you clear it. But that's also dehacking it too. But you know, like it depends on the hack. Like I've had developers that are able to clear it up. They just look at it and go, okay, I can fix this, and that's awesome if they can do it. But sometimes some hacks that are pretty brutal.
Yeah, look up what an SPS file is in your DNS records.
Oh, SPS file.
That helps. Yeah.
Yeah.
With that kind of blocking by mail servers.
Yeah, no, SFP. Yeah, no, I know exactly. Yeah, like to keep spam and DKIM and then DMARC and all that stuff, to combine all of them together, it makes a world of difference. DMARC especially, if you put, quarantine on, it's really effective, or restricted. That actually keeps spam out of your box, but you want to train it first.
Well, the SPS file actually verifies that it's coming from the server, it says.
Exactly. Yeah. Even the SMTP server, if it's a third-party transactional or marketing, it's a great addition. And I couldn't agree with you more. DKIMs are just as important now, and then having that DMARC file is really important.
Okay, so we didn't get to a lot of our news of SEO for today. It's okay.
I had fun reading it, Bill.
I had fun reading it too. And we're at the top of the hour, so I have to call a halt for today. Come back, start again next week.
Anyone has any questions, please shoot them out on YouTube, and we'll answer them.
Well,
Okay.
you can.
Thank you for joining us.
We won't. Bye.
Take care now.
Take care.